2012 marks 20 years of rescuing big cats, and so over those 20 years, what would you say are 2 to 3 maybe ways the sanctuary has changed most profoundly?
Well, I tell you what, if I had it to do over again, I never would have rescued the first animal. And the reason is, what I've discovered is that even though we have rescued several hundred animals over the course of our 20 years and have really done right by them, we're saving tens of thousands of animals through the legislative efforts. And the 100 animals that I currently care for, we're having to raise somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 to $1.8 million a year to take care of feeding and properly caring for those animals. If that money were going into changing the laws so that people couldn't be breeding and exploiting these animals, it'd be over. You know, we would have fixed this problem by now. So we started out as a sanctuary. Well, we started out just by rescuing some animals and not having any idea what we were doing. And of course, the only people we could go to for advice back then were the breeders and dealers who said you should be breeding some of these rare animals. So we did in the early years of the sanctuary. But when we discovered that there were no places that these animals, these exotic cats, were going to be able to be released back to the wild, we stopped breeding and discovered that the only way we were really going to fix this problem was through changing the laws.
Well, with that in mind, let me just ask you one other sort of similar question that I do want to spend some time on legislation, which it sounds like we're kind of the whole ball game really is.
Sorry, I just can't leave it alone.
Yeah, no, and I of course plan to ask you about that, but just a sort of a parallel question to the thing I asked about over those 20 years, you know, the way the sanctuary might have changed most profoundly. Over those 20 years, what are 2 or 3 ways you think you have changed most profoundly?
I am something of a recluse. I would just as soon never leave my home. And so to have to get involved in speaking to people, speaking to large groups of people, I speak to colleges and animal welfare groups, and of course always lobbying at both the state and federal level. It's taken me way outside of my comfort zone, and I still don't like doing it. I hear an awful lot of people say, well, you know, I don't want to get involved in politics. If you love animals, you have to get involved in politics. That's the only way you're going to fix the problem. So it's changed my, it hasn't changed my attitude toward it, but it's changed my willingness.
Yeah, you've pushed past that attitude about public speaking and those kinds of experiences, it sounds like. Yeah. So, okay, so really, as you kind of alluded to, I mean, anyone that's really been around the animal world, or especially animal welfare world for any length of time, has found themselves, you know, often asking, well, why isn't there a law against that, or how can we pass a law against that? So, and kind of also, as you've often alluded to, related to that, it's really comes down to often the only meaningful solution to a host of animal welfare problems. So tell us about you know, some of the legislation currently or pending that you've become involved with that obviously would tie most directly, of course, into big cats.
We've had some great wins here in Florida. It used to be legal to keep cougars as pets, and so we finally got the Florida Wildlife Commission to deem the cougar as a Class 1 animal so that they can no longer be handled and out in public and walked on leashes and all of the kinds of crazy things people were doing. But in July of 2011, probably the most profound change came about as we got involved with the International Fund for Animal Welfare, the Humane Society of the United States, World Wildlife Fund, Born Free, and the Animal Legal Defense Fund, as well as the Ian Somerhalder Foundation. And we all got together in D.C., we sat around a table and said, okay, with all of our collective organizations, what can we do to end the problem with all of these big cats living in backyards and basements and being bred for all of these horrible purposes? And what we came up with was a 3-pronged approach. And so what we decided to do was the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service had inadvertently created a loophole because the zoos, the accredited zoos, when they breed tigers, have to go through a lot of paperwork to do that. And people were breeding white tigers, which are crossbred and inbred and don't serve any kind of conservation value. And so U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service didn't want to have to deal with all the paperwork and decided to say, okay, if it's a generic tiger, then they don't have to jump through all these hoops. Well, that just opened the floodgates, and these people were breeding crazy, mostly trying to produce white tigers because people would pay to see white tigers. So what we did was we went to U.S. Fish and Wildlife